afternoon against top quality opposition, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely they are, and they're even better when you give them a head start. And look, I've just done 3 interviews there, and this for me was a game where we had to be brave and we had to go after them where we could. If you give them, if you get that wrong, it shouldn't mean that they have a goal. You know, it shouldn't mean that they have a shot on your target and they have a goal. But if you aren't committed mentally to it, you know, and you're not brave, and we don't go after it collectively, then you're dead. When we did it, we got it right. So we're 3 goals down, you know, because we were 3 goals down within the blink of an eye, and it just looked like we could go under. The good thing is we didn't. We started to do what we'd spoken about and what we'd done about pressing and getting after them, because they're going to give up chances against you, and not worry about what's behind you. It's what's there, because that's what killed us. You know, if we backed off and we got it wrong, fine, no problem. But you should have the weight. It's not about weight of numbers. It's about being in good positions to turn the ball over, to be able to get after them. We didn't do that well enough until we got the first goal. We got the first goal. It gave us a little bit of belief, actually, and then we got the second goal pretty quickly afterwards. So that gave us that foothold, and you're almost back in it. But you've had to work really hard to get there. And then you obviously we're in a situation where, to affect it in a positive way, when you're 3 down, if you start to run out of energy, because the intensity needed to be there all the game, and we didn't have it. You saw the changes that were made. We had to make those changes, and obviously the defenders certainly Callum Doyle had a tough afternoon today. You know, he got plenty right, but he got plenty wrong. Michael Rose, plenty right, plenty wrong. But as a group, we got the same thing. You know, we got a lot right, we got a lot wrong. Midfield had to do too much running, so they ran the legs out. Again, it's, you know, our season's not defined against Norwich or against Burnley. It's what comes next, and it's what been before that. But we're in that moment where we're just on a bit of a poor run in terms of picking points up. But we'll get back on it. We'll get back to it. You know, I know that you look at it and people go, well, that's not great and that's not great. Well, of course it's not. You know, you want to pick points up even against the top teams. It's the first time we scored at home against these since when they've been in the Championship. We've been poor against them. And in the first 20 minutes, you can turn around and say, well, we're poor again, and we were. Generally, we were poor. We didn't really get started until we were 3 down. And we're not that team where we can play our joker and go, there's 3 goals. We'll have to have a go now and see if we can turn it around. They nearly did it. Credit to them. They nearly did it, but we ran out of the legs. And then when we make the changes again, you know, Josh coming on did all right. Actually, did really well in front of Jake Bidwell. Tucked inside a little bit, because obviously they started to get more of the ball, because we weren't physically capable of going after them. And when you spend that amount of energy against a team that moves the ball like that and drag you around to try and switch the play, and you don't get that right, then obviously you've got further to run. And that's what happened in the game. We were 3 down, got 2 back, ran out of legs, ended up conceding a goal before I could make the changes. They were making changes as well, but they're bringing top quality on. You know, with Pans, with Josh, Wilson Esperand, with Jack. You know, that's where we're at the moment. But we've got to get to the point where we've got the lads all back and ready to go, because that makes the difference for us. I'm not saying you go and win against these, because we've always had difficulty in doing that against them. But that's not to say that we shouldn't be able to turn them over, because we should. We're just in that time where we haven't got enough bodies to be able to do it. The 5 subs kill us at the moment, because we haven't got that. Others have, and they've got good quality on the bench. So that's where it is. It's again philosophical. Not happy about it, but philosophical. Got to work our way through it.
I mean, of the first 3 goals, is the first one particularly disappointing, given it's...
They're all disappointed, but yeah, the first one's terrible. It's terrible. We start to get things wrong. We come under the ball. We leave a massive hole. The ball arrives in that space. He just walks through and taps it in the net. It's poor. It's really poor, and that's twice in 2 weeks. So the last goal we scored, Burnley, and today the first goal today, set plays, and then the third goal, or the fourth goal I should say, was a second, third, fourth phase from a corner anyway. So the bodies are up there. But again, you can't be passive against them. Any team that plays against them, if they're going to be aggressive against them and run hard, and they've got the changes to make, you can take points off Norwich.
And Brooke, it was his second start. How did you assess his
I thought he started off pretty well. I think his starting position wasn't great because Frankie's position's here and he was outside him. It leaves a load of space there. We're trying to block that off and try and get him in a position where he can go on a turnover and you know, make sure that we are a little bit on the front foot. But he did pretty well. You know, but when he believes about it, you know, himself and he understands how good he can be, that's when you'll see him really come into his own. It's about working his way through now. He's only young, he's just 19, you know, but he does things that you're really happy with in that attacking third. Defensively, some of the things he does are really good, but you've got to have somebody behind him who you can trust to then really defend. Frankie does it really well for the most part, but when he tires, you know, then it becomes pretty difficult. But it's, yeah, these two games have been one-offs really, or two-offs, but it's, you know, top opposition really, and we haven't quite got it there to be able to see things through, because I think even, you know, if you've got your full squad, I think you can get something out of that game. You know, that's the frustration, I think. But you know, like I say, the character that they showed, because they could easily have gone under, they didn't. And then when we got the goal back, the supporters have got to understand that and then stick together, because as soon as they don't, you know, things unravel pretty quickly. And I thought that when we got the goal, obviously they start to get behind it. They've got something to get behind, rather than seeing a team capitulate. It wasn't that they capitulated, we just made some poor decisions. They've got the quality to hurt you, and they did.
I was going to say, the fact you've worked your way through this before, earlier in the season, Mark, when everything was conspiring against you, shows just staying calm and patient now, and you know from that it'll come right eventually.
Well, of course it will.
Yeah.
You know, there are reasons for things, and as long as the reasons are there and you know what they are, then you work your way through them. This season has been a tough season, but I said at the end of last season, this season was going to be the toughest one we'd endured since we came back into the Championship. And even though it's close, you know, we're a good side. There's no doubt we're a good side, but we've got a good 11, we've got a good 14, we've got that, and then we've got some lads that contribute to that massively if they're fit and available. And that's where, you know, the sort of change in ownership will help us, but it doesn't help us right away. It will help us down the line. It's difficult. January is difficult anyway. People don't want to sell the best players, and we're no different than that. You know, you speak about who's going in this window. Nobody's going in this window, and that is the change. You know, that is the change. We've got to build. We've got to build, and sort of the stuff that's gone in the past is in the past then, and you can start to look forward and then plan and prepare properly, rather than having to be reactive sometimes because you don't know what is around the corner. But now you do, and you can plan, and that is the biggest difference, and the greatest difference for us. And that will make a big difference moving forward. But it's going to take time, and it isn't one of those things where we've got all of a sudden people go, because I think people see ownership, change of ownership, and I think agents think that you're awash with money, you won the lottery. It's ridiculous. You know, you can't do that. And the more you're in the Championship, the more you're chasing that, the worse it becomes for teams. You've seen it with them. They're chasing away. You can only do it with your turnover. You know, within your turnover, within your parameters. And as long as we do that, then we can do that now with confidence that we're not putting anything in jeopardy, but we can also move it forward better. You know, steadier. With that platform. It's a solid platform that you build from.
And you mentioned about the lads, you need them to come back. Is it? I know you said they're out on the grass now. Some of them. It's looking more positive from that point of view.
Well, yeah, it's more positive than it was last week. Next week it'll be more positive than it was this week. Yeah. So, fingers crossed that, you know, when they're coming back and then they're on the grass, there's 3 of them going to be joining in with training on Monday. So we need a good work week into next weekend. And then into the West Brom game, you know. So the good thing for me is the game moved from Tuesday to Saturday. It gives us a week to work into the next one, which will get them closer. But also, I'm going to need still some reinforcements. But I think I'm sort of ready to push the button on one at least. Another one might come dependent. It's dependent on some things, but it doesn't matter necessarily. that'll either work its way through or it'll work its way through sort of later on for next season. So we'll see. I'm quite happy with that. It's the front end that we're waiting for with Matty, with Tyler, with Josh Eccles coming back in gives us another option in midfield. But really at that top end, I'm looking for something there that at the moment doesn't exist, it isn't there. People won't allow their players out, and like I said, you don't blame them.
Is the one you're going to push the button on, is that the centre back?
Potentially.
And is it a potential permanent?
No, I don't think so. I think it's too difficult to do it. Permanent. I think people look at it and they think timing, and it's got to be right. Timing wise, it's got to be right financially for them. It's got to be right in a number of ways, and this just is a little bit, because obviously the takeover's been late coming through. We've had Dean come in to take over from Chris Badland, and that's obviously been an upheaval and a change. So those things we're still working through quite a lot. I mean, it's manic. You're working long hours. You're trying to put things in place to make sure that you don't make the mistakes. You're putting processes in place, and that's taking time because we've got to try and get people into it to make sure that those processes start. So, like I said, it is what it is. It's where we're at. So people talking about Premier League and playoffs and things like that, it's pie in the sky. We've got to get to that point where we're actually at the football club that isn't a basket case, that works methodically through from a really strong, solid base, and that's what we can have with the new ownership with Doug.
I just want the Gus came off. He seems to be struggling a little bit. Is he okay?
Yeah, I didn't want to take. You never want to take Gus off because he's always a threat and he's always good on the front foot. But he took a whack and he got a dead leg. So I think rather than, and you could see that it affected him in his movement. So, and he came off and he wasn't comfortable. So as long as he gets his ice and he gets in, and they're in the cryo chamber. So hopefully they'll be. He'll be fine. That'll stop any bleeding, and it'll mean that he can join in training again from early next week, Monday, hopefully.
Mark, what's happened with the defence in the last month? Because we conceded 4 goals in the last 2 home games. A lot of December, you're keeping clean sheets. Some of the teams fairly similar.
What do you think?
I haven't seen all your games. You're obviously playing against a good couple of teams, but I mean, the West Brom game, I thought you were magnificent defensively that evening. And I think it was the same or very similar defence today.
Have you just heard anything I've said about players out, injured, lightness of squad?
Very similar team. Really.
You've got players that are young players. Yeah. You've got playing against top teams. You've got accumulation of games. You've got all those things. You've got maybe even there's doubt creeps in from time to time. You've got human beings. You haven't got robots.
So first mistake today, didn't that kind of had a knock-on effect on the next couple of goals?
Well, potentially that happens, but if you don't do the right things collectively, then you're going to get unpicked, and that's what happened today. And if you don't understand, if you don't understand that, I'm talking about players now. If they don't understand it, they can cause themselves and the team a problem because there's no communication. Young players don't really know the game yet, which is what we're at. You've got Grant Hanley and Alabama Dealey for them, who are top players that have been there for a long time, international players. You're talking about young players trying to find their way in a game. Panzo's just come back from a suspension, and he's come back into the team sort of later on in that game. You've got Fanky, who's come back from an injury, long-term injury. You've got then 2 younger players, that one on the bench who got injured last week. Then you've got Brooke Norton-Cuffy coming in, who's trying to find his feet in the game. Played 2 really top opposition, there's no doubt, and he's shown some really good signs. But we have nothing to change it. The amount of energy that you've got to use when you get through those games, when you've not got the numbers, the depth. If you don't understand that, then you're mad. That's where we're at. That's what we're at as a club. So that's where people look, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? I can talk to you all day about it. That's what's wrong. We just haven't got the numbers, and we haven't got that quality in depth to be able to make the changes when we need to, like other teams. That's why I said 5 substitutes kill you. So 5 substitutes with quality changes, with energy, kills you, because you haven't got that. So you've got kids. Jack Burrows comes on, and he doesn't know the game totally yet, but he's tried. Good athleticism, makes poor decisions. They get forward, they get down behind our back line. Midfield gets dragged across. They reverse the ball, they play the ball on the other side, and they've got top players that can exploit you. That's what happened. All right?
Well done. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.